What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be the very much requested updated Dragunity deck profile for post-Clash of Rebellions. It's still July 2015 format, so I mean anything that's changing in terms of whether or not we'll get the third Dragon Ravine back next format, those things, those things are unknowns, and hopefully this video will be really quick, simply because I believe that I believe that my theory on this deck going forward was correct from the last deck profile that I uploaded. Because through my testing, I've been having very few problems with the deck in terms of how it functions. The only problems I've been having with the deck is, strictly due to power creep or just, lackluster technical play by yours truly. But anyway, I'm just going to get into the deck really quickly, and like I said, hopefully this video is quick. I'm only going to explain the things that I feel are necessary, because there's very minor changes. Like I said, I feel like I got it right the first time. But monsters, there are 13, starting with your standard triple ducks, your 1 Zephyros, 1 Garuda, and 1 Harpy Harpist. Now, I am honestly considering cutting this card. Now, don't get me wrong. This card is great in what it does for the deck, in terms of extending some of your combo plays further and doing things like that. But without Tempest legal, this card doesn't really do anything to jumpstart your game states into the point of where you're going to be gaining pluses off this card. This is much more of a combo extender than it is a combo generator. And when Tempest was legal, this was, a combo generator in itself. It generated its own new combo that allowed you to get pluses off that combo. It would honestly be a whole different story if Harpy Harpist could search this card, but it's still in the deck for now. But I am considering cutting it, simply because there's almost never a time when I actually search this card mid-combo. The only times I ever use it are when I hard draw it. For the Dragon side, double Mistleton and 1 Leviton, I still feel this is correct to go into the Felgrand play to at least have a chance against Necros, especially since Necros now is more crippled in what it can do. The Clown Necros build, obviously, is going to be a lot more better equipped at dealing with a Felgrand, but this is still, if you want to have a foot to stand on against Necros, you're going to want to have the Felgrand potential, because that card is honestly insane against that matchup, because it lets you hit through Valk. It lets you just kill them. And then, Red Eyes and 3 Phalanx as the only tuners. There's 1 copy of Legionnaire and 1 copy of Ackley's in the side. I'm letting my friend borrow cards for the regional that's coming up. So I don't have my entire side deck together, so unfortunately there will not be one in this video. If I had all the cards with me, I would definitely show it to you. But essentially there's 1 Legionnaire, 1 Ackley's, there's a pair of Shared Rides, the 2 Maxis have been moved to the side deck for the reason of this deck always wants to go first, and if you're going to be playing against Necros or Shaddolls going in blind, they're going to make you go first. And Maxis not a combo card. I wanted this deck to be all combo cards, and Maxis are in the side deck for, when you know you're playing against Shaddolls, when you know you're playing against Necros, you can tell those decks to go first, and then your Maxis will be live, and against BA as well. It depends on which deck you're playing against and what your matchup is, whether or not you choose to go first or second after you know what they're playing. Against Necros, you usually choose to go second, just because, you can OTK them if you open a sort of combo with, the Felgrand nonsense. But for spells, 2 Dragon Ravine, 2 Chicken Game, triple Upstart, and triple Terraforming. And, the cards of consonants, nonsense, are just really consistency cards. Now, Chicken Game is, just another field spell to search off Terraforming, but you almost never search off Terraforming. It essentially operates as the 4th and 5th Upstart Goblin, specifically in this deck and in this build. It's mainly there to help your percentages of getting to Dragon Ravine or getting to your combos, because without Chicken Game in the deck, going first you had a 53.8% chance of opening Dragon Ravine, but with Chicken Game taking up the 4th and 5th Upstart Goblin slot, that percentage boosts by 2.3% to 5.6 or to 56.1%. And then going second, you had a 61% chance without Chicken Game in the deck to see Dragon Ravine, and with it you have a 2.4% boost up to 63.4% chance of seeing Dragon Ravine. So it's all just helping percentages. Of course, those percentages don't just translate to Dragon Ravine, they translate to, all your combo cards that you run 2 to 3 of, get a boost from it as well. Makes the deck a lot more stable, and it's what you need to do going forward. If I could find something that I felt like cutting to put a 3rd copy of this in, I definitely would, because that would, increase your percentages further, alongside the Upstart Goblins. 2.3 and 2.4% might not seem overly relevant, but when you consider the fact that almost everyone plays Upstart Goblin in their deck because it makes their deck inherently more consistent by about 3 to 4%, somewhere in there. A 2.5% around that, margin of percentage gain on top of playing Upstarts is very relevant, because you have to factor in the concept of diminishing returns and things like that as well. But for the rest of the spells, just more draw cards, cards of consonants, 2 copies of Dragunity Divine Lance, 2 instant fusions for the Mavelus, and the only one-ofs I run are Soul Charge, Foolish, and Raigeki. Now, Raigeki is the only card in the deck that I really wanted to have that's a card that is only good going second. This is literally the only card in the deck that's good going second, and it would be dead in my hand turn 1. But it's just such a powerful card, and it clears boards, and sometimes that's what you need to do with this deck, especially since the Legionnaire Ackley's suite is not in the main deck because they're essentially too slow to be relevant in the meta, but they are sided for, slower paced decks. Now, as far as this card goes, the 3rd copy of this is in the side deck. It usually gets boarded in when Ackley's and Legionnaire do get boarded in as well, but it also gets boarded in without those cards if you're playing against either Towers Turbo or Shadal's, because this card is both an out to Towers as well as an out to Winda, and I'll explain, in just a second. In order to out Winda, if you're playing against Shadal's, if you tell them to go first, they'll more than likely just make Winda against you, because essentially, in theory, that locks you out of the game. If you summon Ducks and put a Divine Lance on it, you can have Ducks between 23 and 2500, so it can attack over Winda, and then even if you had the flanks in circulation already, then great. If not, this has the flanks on your Ducks. So it puts it between 23 and 25 based off whether or not you had flanks in grave already or not. And then you can attack over Winda, being immune to traps, and then you can start trying to combo off from there, and then, have a board established with, hopefully, some traps so that they don't get full value off Shadal Fusion if they have it. Now, against Towers Turbo, your out to Towers is going to be hopefully doing a combo, and then having your ending point be 1 Vajrayana on the board. You'll have Vajrayana, and you'll equip flanks to it, and then you'll equip a Divine Lance to the Vajrayana. Now, what Towers will do is Towers will make Vajrayana go down by 500 to 1400, then Divine Lance will make Vajrayana gain 600, being at 2000, and then you'll use Vajrayana's effect, sending Phalanx to grave, and boosting it up to 4000, and running over Towers. And if you were able to do that, during a string of combos, you'll usually have this, plus Red Eyes, plus, 2 other Synchros on the board, or, an Atum or Ptolemy, or something like that. So you can usually game shot them from there, and that's something that, is relevant that you essentially have to do. That's the only real thing that I felt like explaining, because a lot of people were, wondering how you really deal with those threats with this deck that were talking to me, and this essentially is the solution, but I just don't think it's worth it to run 3 Lance in a deck where you only have 3 of the tuner. I mean, it could be worth just because of the fact that, Leviton's in the build, but I mean, I just can't think of a card that I would cut for it. But anyway, that's the spells, and for the traps, they're the same 8 that I had last time. Double Call the Haunted, Double Mind Crush, Double Fiendish Chain, Vanity, and Warning. Now, traps in general have just kind of been, getting worse and worse in the game's history over the past couple of years. Because, in the past, with this deck, I would have run anywhere between 10 to 12 traps, just because, you want to establish, you want to open, Ravine Zephyros plus at least 1 trap, and you essentially win the game from that point. But the game has evolved past that to where you essentially need a floodgate or multiple traps, or a trap that doesn't let your opponent play, that will, be something that allows you to achieve auto-win situations. This is just a combo card, and this is a recovery card. This goes hand in hand with Soul Charge. If Soul Charge was at 3, I probably wouldn't even be playing this, simply because Soul Charge is just strictly better. But in terms of Mind Crush and Fiendish and Emptiness and Warning, these just turn off threats in, the Necros and random matchups. This is good against almost anything in the format currently. Even against, Dolls, you can just Mind Crush the fusion that they add back after you kill Winda. You can Mind Crush different things in the Klee matchup, like Scouts, or if you don't want to deal with Towers, you can Mind Crush Towers when they add it. Or even if they haven't added it, it's usually pretty obvious when they're about to drop Towers on you. Things like that. And then Emptiness and Warning are just staple all-around good traps, even though Warning kind of sucks as of late just because it only deals with 1 threat. But, this deck can't support maining multiple floodgates. This deck might be able to main Mistake, but, it's going to be very reliant on you comboing up first turn and then flipping Mistake. Maybe it's something for the side deck. But anyway, the extra deck has stayed the same, I believe. Trident Dragon, Crimson Blader, Scrap Dragon, Stardust, and Stardust Spark. Gaedirg and Triple Vajrayana are for the Synchros. Maverless is the one instant fusion target, just because there's only 2 instant fusion in the deck, and the extra deck is really clogged with this build because you need to make room for Felgrand and the second Atum. But for Exceeds, Felgrand, Ptolemy, 2 Atums, and Abyss Dweller. I've never really missed Gaia Dragon. If I wanted to ever make room for Gaia Dragon, I'd probably just cut this. It would either be cutting this or Crimson Blader, because honestly they're the cards I make the least. The cards I obviously make the most are like Stardust, Scrap Dragon, Atum, and Felgrand in this. There's even been there's not a lot of times that I make this card anymore either, just because anytime that you would make this, you usually are just in a state to go Atum into Leviathan or something else. So those are definitely things to consider if you wanted to make room for Gaia Dragon again. You don't have to play 2 Atum, but you do have to play 2 Atum if you want to do the first turn Felgrand combo, because it uses 2. But if you want, you can cut one of the Atums for something else, and then you'll still have access to the Felgrand combo. It just won't be first turn. So you can do that as you will, as you like. Essentially, is what you can do with that. But yeah, overall. Like I said, if I could find something to cut for the 3rd chicken game, maybe Raigeki, I would definitely put it in, just because it increases your percentages. Considering cutting Garuda, even though the card is really good in terms of what it does for the deck, allowing you to bypass your normal summon, I just really wish it could be searched off Harpist. Legionnaire can't be searched off Harpist either. If it could be, then it would probably be in the main deck just as a 1-card out to certain monster threats. Overall, I'm not too sure on what the deck status moving forward is. I really just want to see what happens in the next format. This deck is going to have to be competing against Pendulum decks if you try to play this deck, and that might be an issue, but it also might, be, manageable through maining like Anti-Spell Fragrance or something like that. This deck has definitely tried to fight its way through what I consider to be worse, but I don't know. I just feel like this deck would do really well if it got a very specific set of pendulums. Like, I've been theorying around with creating my own 2 Dragunity pendulums and you making effects for them that aren't broken but are good enough to get the deck moving and that are really good. And from what I've done testing, just with friends and nonsense, they've been working really well, and they definitely solve a lot of the deck's problems. So I feel like if this deck ever got pendulum support, it'd be really cool. But anyway, as always, guys, comment, rate, subscribe. That is going to be it for this video. Links are in the description to both my Facebook pages. Go to both links and do the appropriate actions with either. If you have any questions about this deck or about Dragunities in general that you'd like me to answer, anything that I haven't really addressed, be sure you just leave a comment down below or send me a message on one of those Facebook pages, and I'll be sure to try and at least answer them to the best of my abilities for you. If you're interested in playing this deck, feel free. I put deck profiles up so that people can use them, and we can hopefully come to a consensus of what's good and what's not. I have had a lot of people recently that have been messaging me asking if it's alright if they use my deck profile for stuff. I was like, yes, why would I put it online if I wasn't willing to give the information up to people to use? It just makes more logical sense that way. But anyway, as always, guys, click on that if you have not. I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that, but I'd be completely understanding, and I wouldn't be offended if you decided not to. Just know that it helps me out immensely if you do. But that is going to be it for this video, as I've already stated. And as always, guys, take care. There might be more Dragunity videos coming out soon in the future. Not sure. Just have to get ready to film them and come up with topics to essentially structure and talk about. But anyway, enough of that jibber jabber. As always, guys, take care.